the Daytona Beach Motor Mouse. I think this is episode 9 or 10, Ken. I can't count that high. That's why I write for a living. Saw an interesting race at Talladega Sunday. I guess I should introduce this first, by the way. See, I just messed that up. It's been a while. I'm sports editor Ryan Pritt. That's columnist and expert Ken Willis. And Ken, before we get into NASCAR, I did want to ask you, is 155-7 in play for my beloved Pittsburgh Pirates this year?
I did not know they were off to a great start by their standards, but yeah, why not? You know, why not? Dream big. But,
you can tell
if you're willing, but if your wallet is as sharpy as your mouth, I would like to throw some numbers at you and see if you're willing to try to back it up financially.
Yeah, you could tell by my attire. They finally sucked me in. It's kind of like Ross Chastain and a crazy move. You just can't help myself after a four-game sweep of the much-hated Cincinnati Reds. We are 16-7 and in first place in the National League right now. So enjoy it while you can.
Swept the Reds. I guess ain't that something.
You guys didn't know you were tuning in for a National League Baseball report, and you're not. So we're going to move on here real quick. Talladega, Ken, this is where I want to start. Pretty quick and simple question. Was that a good race Sunday?
Well, sure. Why not? I mean, there were a lot of guys that had a chance to win, and fuel consumption had you kind of on the edge of your seat if you had a seat at the end. So, I mean, it had elements, yeah. And, but we've seen dicier and we've seen more exciting Daytonas and Talladegas. So by that standard, maybe not. And I don't like any race ending in the winner determined by who was ahead when the yellow flag came out. We've had that now at the Daytona 500 and now at the first Talladega. I dislike that a whole lot. And so now I just changed my mind. I talked a full circle around and said, no, any race that ends like that can't be considered a good race.
Well, the first couple stages for the most part were kind of, I don't know, it was that 2x2x2 that we saw in Daytona. And it was what the driver said it was going to be. It was a lot of riding around. We did see the formation of a top line a couple times, and it kind of got there, and then it would disappear as soon as it would get there. So at least that was encouraging. But, on our poll this week, we're asking people what the best race of the year is. Do you think this was a better race than the Daytona 500?
No, I seem to recall there was, boy, God, it seems like years ago now, doesn't it? I just seem to recall there being more to watch consistently at Daytona. It's funny, though, these plate races where something happens a third of the way into the race or a quarter of the way into the race, halfway through the race, the drivers get out and bitch. And I don't know what he was thinking. We're not even halfway done. We're barely 50 laps in. That's the type of stuff you do late in the race. We got to be smarter. And then when they're smarter, we complain.
That's true.
Who wants a bunch of smart guys out there just clicking laps until they get down to the money laps and then they go crazy. So yeah, I mean you can't win. But we always pull for chaos to a certain degree.
Yeah, that's true. There were some things obviously to take away from Sunday. You wrote, or we talked about in Speed Freaks, the late incident between Blaney and Wallace, and we're going to talk about Ross back in the center of everything again on that first restart. And I think you and I kind of saw that from different angles, judging by text messages. I think you think it was one of those racing things. I kind of think it was.
Hey, he was a
little bit
to go to the front, for God's sake.
He was already at the front. At least get up to speed first. That's all I'm saying. Let's get to the back stretch and have 2 laps there and see what we can get done.
But once everybody's up to speed, he may not be able to go by them. He was taking advantage of a slower car in front of him, not getting up to speed like he was. So
perhaps we'll do a separate 10-minute podcast, PTI style, where you and I just argue for 10 minutes about this. But there are plenty of takeaways, and one of the biggest, the shame of it is the late race drama that happened there and the Chastain situation. All of that kind of ruined what was really impressive runs from Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. You looked up and they were running 1, 2, 2, 3 with 10 laps to go. Gibbs has been doing this for a while, but that was a really encouraging run out of Noah Gragson, I thought.
Again, it was it's a plate race, so those things happen. I'm surprised Corey LaJoy, if he hadn't gotten in trouble early, he might have been up there at the end too. So, but Ty Gibbs, I'm waiting. I mean, I really do think that eventually it's going to click, and I think he peeled off like 3 straight ninth place finishes last month or sometime in the past month or 6 weeks. So the signs are there, and as much as you can read something into a plate race, I mean, he was sniffing the lead quite a bit yesterday and up in it once or twice. So I'm hoping, if you remember last year, he got into some Ross Chastain type wrong place, wrong time, and so he's not afraid to mix it up. And I think I think the NASCAR world's going to be a better place when Ty Gibbs regains his footing, and when Noah Gragson finds fifth gear. I
Yeah,
think it's going to be a lot more fun.
we've talked about that. Gregson has a chance to be a really important figure in the sport. He's a fan. He's got a fan favorite personality right now. He just needs the results to back it up. And by the way, before we leave the topic altogether, I'll ask you one last question. If that's Kyle Busch at the front of that line and not Noah Gragson, does Ross Chastain still make the same move?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I was about to follow that up by going like, I'm going to just answer whatever I answer. You're not going to be able to say I'm wrong, and you just said I'm wrong.
And I did. Never underestimate my ability to tell you that you're wrong. Let's move on. I tell you what, I forgot that we only run at Dover once a year now. It's been a couple years of that. It's actually a racetrack that I kind of always liked, man. It's fast. It's hot banked. You can run some different lines here. Don't consider it a short track. It's kind of an intermediate in between the 1.5 miles and a short track. What are you kind of expecting here in terms of the racing?
It's sort of well, you never know what you're going to get with the combo between the tires and the aero package and all that. Yeah, so it's like a bigger Bristol in a way.
Yeah,
It's got the banking and it's concrete, and they get a lot of speed there. And I just remember when Buddy Baker was in the broadcast booth, and somebody would hit wreck hard at Dover into the outside wall, and Buddy would say that outside wall was backed up by the whole state of Delaware. He used to talk about how hard that wall was at Dover. I don't know how concrete can be harder at Dover than it is elsewhere, but Buddy Baker swore it was true, and so I go ahead and I'm running with that. So
yeah, I've always kind of thought this track was like if Bristol and Homestead had a baby. It's kind of right in the middle of both of them.
They did.
But however,
they don't like to talk about it.
Well, however you want to define it, it's been a Hendrick Motorsports playground as of late. It's 4 of the last 7 for Hendrick. William Clodd's got a pair of those, by the way, and he needs one. Obviously, I don't think he's gonna be able to point his way in here, but as strong as Hendrick's been this year, I mean, there's not much reason to think that they won't be good Sunday, right?
Yeah. Oh no. Just run with that every week until further notice. Yeah.
Yeah. Is as far as your official pick goes, or are you picking from that camp?
No.
Don't steal my answer this week, by the way. I'm tired of that. I'm going to start going first on this podcast if you keep that up.
God, I saw who you picked, and I can't remember who it was. So I might just dumb luck my way into picking the same thing. I like. I think I've said this a couple of times already, but I'm going to stick with it. I like Harvick. He's good there, and I think he wants to get the win out of the way. And I think the longer they go into the season and he hasn't won, he's going to feel a little more desperate to have a win in his final year. But I think this is as good a place as any for him to do that. So why not?
I like that pick. He was good, Richmond and Phoenix. And this isn't a short track, but it's close. I like that pick. I think Chase wins. I think it's tie. He knows he needs one. Let's just go ahead and get it at a track he's really good at. The cars are going to be fast. Why not, right?
Well, so the man, if he beats Kyle Larson, he has a chance to win the race, because Kyle Larson usually, when he has something go horribly wrong, like happened at Talladega, he's known to often wins the very next week. So we'll see what happens.
I'm sure they'll dominate the first 99.6% of the race, and then JJ Yeley will blow a tire, and then Ross Chastain will dive bomb them both, and somebody that never had anything to do with anything of the race wins the race. So that's how it's gone. So congratulations to, I don't know, who do you think? Brian Priest for being in 8th place at the right time and winning the race on Sunday. So,
boy, I tell you what, he needs something to happen.
Yeah, that, and by the way, just a quick aside, thank God him and Kyle Larson are both okay. That was the in-car camera of Brian Priest right there was pretty terrifying. So
Yeah,
glad those
yeah,
guys are okay.
yeah. God forbid that was, thank God it was a passenger side door that got hit. I mean, that could have been bad.
I thought the same thing. I thank God it was that side of the car. So with that, we will exit stage right and wait until next week. That's Ken Willis, and I'm Ryan Pritt. And hey, let's go Bucks.